I'm in Rothiemurchus Forest, heading towards Glen Einik. At present, I'm sheltering under a tree from one of the little showers that keeps happening, but which aren't quite enough, don't last long enough to justify waterproofs. I think I'd overheat massively in waterproofs, but are just enough to get you a bit wet if you're out in the open. This is a lovely viewpoint. I'll swing the camera around so you can get an idea of where I am. There's occasional sunshine as well, and on the tops there is snow visible, which I should be able to see more clearly when I get out of the forest, which will be very soon. Swinging back round again because I'm near the top of the forest now, which is in that direction. Well, the last squall passed by, but not long afterwards I came out of the forest. The air here is colder, but also heavier rain began, and so on went the waterproof jacket. There's a touch of sunshine in places now. As before, I'll swing the camera around so you can see the view. Lots of water in the burns that has been wet the last few days, and there in the clag up there is Brer Riach. I imagine this rain was snow up there, and then further round and looking back down to the top of Rothiemurchus. So we'll see what the weather brings next. I'm in camp on a dryish bit of boggy ground. The rain of the last week or so has totally changed the nature of the hills in the Cairngorms. Areas that were all bone dry and crunchy not so long ago are all back to their usual sodden squelchiness now. The last little bit of video I shot, I commented that I'd put my waterproof jacket on because the last shower had lasted a bit longer and was a bit stronger than I'd hoped. Well, a shower started again soon after that, and this shower lasted for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Not really a shower anymore, I guess. Anyway, it was very, very wet. I ended up putting on over trousers as well, squelching up the hillside. The clouds came down. They're not far above now, but at least the rain has stopped. There was a bit of a wind earlier too, but that's gone. When I got here and put the tent up, I felt quite chilled because it was so damp, and I got pretty wet. You know, even with the best waterproofs, when it rains for hours and hours and the air is saturated, you get damp inside. However, once I got the tent up, got inside, had some hot soup, got a warm dry jacket on, got in my sleeping bag, and then had a pasta and sauce dinner, I now feel quite comfortable and quite happy. I can hear the burn roaring away, not far away. Can't see anything at all, there's no stars out there, the cloud is still down. I hope it'll lift in the morning, that's the forecast, but then it was forecast to be dry this afternoon and evening. I'm using similar setup to the last little video of a camp I posted. This is again a Hilleberg Acto, except this is a brand new model, and so the third version I've used so far this year. The first one, which is where I had problems with the pole when I was camped in the snow last month, that one has gone back to Hilliberg. They want to have a look at it and see if they can work out, you know, what went wrong. I suspect it may have been user error, however, rather than tent error. And they swapped it for this one, which is a brand new latest version model. And the one I used on the last trip was the original Hilliberg for 30 years ago, which worked great. This is the latest one, which so far also seems to work great. The one difference I noticed is the one where I had problems getting the pole in the socket, the plastic socket was about twice the length of that on the original Hilliberg. Well, this one, the current Hilliberg, it's gone back to the same length as the original, and there's no problem getting the pole in at all. I suppose, compared with the last time I was out, the biggest change I've made is with the stove, because having used, you know, these fire maple heat exchanger pots with a number of different stoves, but all ones that sit on top of the canister, I wonder what it would be like using one with, you know, a remote canister burner like this, which is the Alpkit Coro. Because the advantage of a remote canister burner like this are low profile. You don't have something, you know, up here that might topple over, so stability is far better. You can put a windscreen all the way around if you need to. You no need to leave a gap, no need to ensure the canister stays cool, because canister's out here. And also, in extreme cold, which won't be tonight, there's no wind tonight, so there's no need for a windscreen, it's got a preheat tube which brings the gas up through that where it liquefies. The advantage of the preheat tube is if it's really cold, see here, you can turn the canister upside down and then it works as a liquid fuel stove, which is more efficient when it's really cold. Because it's a low profile stove, I usually put, unless I'm on a rock, I usually put something underneath it. In this case, just a food packet. There is no danger of setting fire to the hillside here because everything is sodden. I mean, if I press the stove down like that, I can feel the ground squelching under it. So more likely that the ground will put the stove out than the stove will set the ground alight. But anyway, I'm going to light it for one more time tonight and make some hot chocolate. One thing with this stove is there's no igniter built in, so you need a lighter or a fire steel, which I always carry anyway because igniters have a habit of failing. The lighter, which is just a standard cheap lighter, but I keep it in a jacket pocket, which keeps it warm and dry. And then it lights okay. And here we go. That's lit. And the petrol stove fits neatly on. And the flame spreads out but doesn't come beyond the ends of the heat exchanger. And now wait for the water to boil. This is not as powerful a burner as the Pocket Rocket Deluxe that I've been using with this pot, but I've had this stove for a number of years and it may not boil water quite as fast as some of the other stoves I've got, but it works perfectly well, simmers fine, and really with water boiling, whether a minute or so here or there really doesn't make any difference. And on short trips, the amount of gas used doesn't make any difference either. It would do on a long trip, however, which is where the heat exchanger can be an advantage. And one thing I'm doing is I'm recording how much water I'm boiling on this trip, and I weighed the canister, which is half empty, before I came out, and I'll see how much gas is and when I get home, and how much water I've boiled and the time I've spent simmering, how much gas that is used. Most of these tests that people do, that I do, you do it at home with a brand new canister, 500ml, and you see how much gas you use. I'm not sure how realistic that is to actual outdoor use when you're switching the stove on, then putting the pot on. It may boil for a short while before you switch the stove off. You simmer food for a while. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm expecting I'll have boiled about 1.5 litres of water. I'll be, by the time I pack up tomorrow, this is only a one-night trip, and I'll be interested to see just how much, we nearly have boiling, just how much gas I've used in that time. But once the hot chocolate's ready, I'm going to bring the camera inside in case it rains again overnight, have my hot chocolate and go to sleep. Well, I thought we almost had, well, there is steam coming out. It seemed to be almost boiling, and then to slow down. This stove, another advantage, possibly due to the less power output, but another advantage compared with, say, the pocket rocket is it doesn't make much noise. I have to keep checking. Oh yeah, there is still a strong flame under there. The pocket rocket certainly lives up to its name. It has a distinctive roar when it's on. Overall, I prefer this one. As I say, there's no rush. But I imagine it's almost there now. In fact, yeah, that's it. Turn it off. Whoops. What was I saying about stability? But let it cool just a little before I add it to the hot chocolate. You don't want completely boiling water in hot chocolate mix anyway. It curdles the milk. I think that can go in now. Give it a stir, and then tomorrow it'll all depend on the weather as to how much higher I go. If I do go higher, how long I stay up there, whether I simply go back the way I've come. This isn't a trip with a fixed destination or route in mind. I don't do that in the Cairngorms that much anymore because I know the area pretty well, and I just like to be out here and enjoy being in the hills and see where that takes me. But for now, it's shortly going to take me to sleep, so I'll switch the camera off and settle down for the night. See you in the morning, I expect. Well, good morning on April the 18th. It was a damp night, lots of condensation, lots of wet in the tent, which isn't surprising after all the rain yesterday and the fact that I'm camped on boggy ground. But the sky is clearing now and sunshine is approaching the tent, so I hope it might even be dry before I set off. There's a great view looking out of the tent door, which I'll swing the camera around so you can see it in a minute, showing Sgorgui and Scoran du Mor, a line of snow along the tops. I've woken myself up with one mug of coffee. It'll be time for another mug of coffee soon, and then out of the tent, have a look round, start packing up, decide what to do. If it stays clear, I'll probably wander up Rereach, see what the snow is like. If it gets too slippery, I'll turn back. I haven't got ice axe or crampons or microspikes with me. But for the moment, it's very pleasant just sitting here looking out at this view. I will swing the camera around, and there it is. Though as this is a wide-angle lens, it looks a bit smaller. I might change to another lens and show you this view again. And here is a closer view of the Scoran du Mor to Sgorgui ridge. Here's a walk round my camp. The sun is coming and going at the moment. Some of the time it's really bright, other times, as now it's relatively dark, it's quite breezy now, which I hope will dry the tent, but it is quite a nippy breeze. And I swing round, just looking across Glen Eineach and towards Scoran du Mor, Sgorgui, and then on this side it's all Rereach, and the burn by which I'm camped, a bit more cloud coming that way, and then round to the hill behind the tent, and there's the tent again. The mat you can see, which is very comfortable, is a Big Agnes Zoom UL insulated. It's also very light. I think it's about 370 grams. I'll check that and put the weight on the screen. It is a bit noisy though. The in-tent little videos, you can hear it creaking when I move. And down there you can see the stove and my pots. As I said in one of the videos, the little Alpkit Coro remote canister stove worked quite well, but is definitely slower than the MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe. And the reason I say a stove like that is stable, but what I found, which again I think is at the end of one of the videos, is that the stiffness of the fuel line means it can tip the stove over when you move the canister or adjust the fuel, especially I found if the pot has only got 200 ml in it, so it's quite light. With more water in it doesn't tip. But it's worth remembering to keep hold of the pot handle when adjusting the stove. And And there's my wet socks from yesterday. I have a lot of wet stuff from yesterday. Some of it I'll put out to see if it can dry, the waterproof jacket, I think. Possibly, you can see there my shirt, which also got damp. It was very wet yesterday. But looking over this way, it looks as though there might be a cloud inversion down in the glen. So I think I'll wander up to this little ridge and see if I can see it. You can see, looking at the ground down here, there's pools of water from yesterday's rain everywhere. This is a boggy hillside. Yes, looking down there, you can see a bit more now. It really is an inversion. I think I should be able to zoom in a bit more on that. There we are. Clouds in the glen. But hopefully I'll mostly be in sunshine today, and fairly soon here's the sun coming again. Time to pack up and move on. This is looking up the shoulder of Strathnalarag. I think the summit's just out of sight. I decided to come this way because of the amount of snow high up. I'm not quite sure how well, I will do without my socks and crampons, so I don't want to risk anything steep. And swinging round to where we are, and more snow and dark clouds. I know that the weather is meant to change later, with possibly snow coming in, and I don't particularly want to be up high in a blizzard either. So I will go over Strathnalarag and hope that snow there is quite soft, and then I will descend by the Larrig. This is at the top of Strathnalarag. It is winter up here. It's extremely cold. It's a bit ankle deep. I'll swing the camera around in a minute and you can have a look at the view I can see. Here we go. Back down in the forest again, and back down into the rain, which started as I was descending to the Larrigaroo. And this is now the end of another, I think, successful and very different overnight trip into the Cairngorms. 2 weeks ago it was hot and sunny. The trip before that it was winter and I camped on snow. This trip it was winter again. I didn't camp on snow. But for the 18th of April, there's quite a lot of snow up there, and apparently more to come. So imagine this rain will be snow, not much further up. I'll swing the camera around. You can see the path, and then over the woods to a hazy Aviemore and grey clouds everywhere. Down there is the Alt Druy rushing its way through the forest to Invedruy, and that's the way I'm going, down through the forest, back to the car and then home. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little video of my surprisingly wintry, not so surprisingly wet trip.